So the concept of this today's workshop is teaching you how to build SDKs, that's software developers kits. Mostly SDKs are like things that you can see as, instead of developer having to go through all of those complexity for a particular feature in your app. So let's say you have an application that does maybe online ticketing, for instance. You are a small startup and you are looking at the possibility of gaining more customers for this solution, but it's really hard. And you already have some competitors that have access to all these customers. So you can leverage on SDKs to help you build a simple wrapper around your solution, and then giving out there to all these other small business that have access to this customer, to enable them use the same features of your application to power their customers. So my name is Ahmed Olanrewaju. I'm one of the GDG organizers for Ilorin and also part of the Quora Build tech ecosystem. I'm a full stack engineer by profession. I've been doing this for the past 8 years now professionally, but about 10 years in software development as a whole. So one of the areas that I center most on is building AI-powered solution, especially user-centered solution that is basically for thousands of users. But while doing that, I later realized that there are opportunities that we are not tapping into most times when we build solutions like this, especially because where I work, we interface with a lot of enterprise merchants, which is something like, enterprise are like banks, for instance. Most times when you build a very custom solution and you take it to them that, oh, I have this robust stuff that can help you analyze your dashboard, give you mad insight into your customer spending pattern, most of the time, they don't want third-party solution. They prefer that, why not bring your solution, host it on-prem, host it on our server. They like to control their data, basically. So instead of shutting down your business, you need to think, what are the strategies for business for all? Meaning, if I'm giving client A to use my solution as software as a service, client B is trying to make me develop this solution, make me deploy this solution to their on-prem, having access to my code. Even nowadays where we can easily package some solution that they don't directly have access to your code, it's still not really making sense, because when you're trying to roll out update and a lot of things, there are bottlenecks. How you can solve this problem is by thinking, by having the mindset of building SDK. But before we proceed, we are going to be going through some code labs together. But I want everyone that is participating here today to look at all the prerequisites and ensure that you have everything set up for yourself. So I believe, does anyone knows Git and GitHub? Do we all have GitHub accounts? Awesome. So please ensure that you have Git on your system and you also have access to the Google AI Studio. So ensure that you also have Python on your system. One of the programming language we'll be using for this workshop is Python. It is very simple and easy to understand. Is why it's selected for this workshop, so that you can code along. And the last one is React.js. React.js is very common in the front-end ecosystem to allow you to build simple and usable user interface. So the overview for this workshop today, we'll be looking at SDK mindset, like I've been discussing earlier. You need to start thinking SDK. Before you start saying, I want to build SDK, you need to first of all have the mindset, like what SDK is all about and what are the building blocks for me to get started with building SDK. But to make this workshop a little bit more interesting, I started thinking about, okay, do we need to think of a simple solution that we build? And then we are now thinking of how can we build SDK around this to now give it to developers or clients to use. So I thought of, now that we are in the era of AI, especially in a Google event, so I thought of us building a simple AI agent. And today, you will build your first AI agent. It's very simple, trust me. So with Gemini, which is the Google's model, and we're also using the Google ADK. So Google ADK is the Agent Development Kit by Google. It is open source and it has a lot of building blocks for you to get started building your first AI agent. And for the front end, because we also need a way for our front-end solution to interact with the back end, we're going to be using React for that, as mentioned earlier. So with React, we can easily do a little bit more around API consumption and user interaction for the app. Then the last step is the SDK wrapper. So after you've built your back end, you've built your front end that interact with this back end, it is hosted by you. You now want to start thinking how I can build an SDK that someone can easily use on their own third-party platform. So we are going to look at the SDK wrapper. And then lastly, test and publish your package. So why does SDK matter? Like we've discussed, you have solved a lot of problems. You've built a very robust application that does a lot of computing. Maybe just as a student, you build something around maybe a simple GP calculator, for instance. Many people like it, many students like it, they've been using it on your campus. And you now start thinking of, what about I go to other schools? But instead of telling them now, oh, you have to host another domain, mygpcalculator.com, before you can access my GP calculator, I can just tell them that I have an SDK for GP calculator. You already have a school portal, so you don't have to leave your vendor. I have a way your developer can easily plug this in, part of your menu on your app or your dashboard. They can just render my GP calculator, customized to your school, so it's look and feel like your school owns it. However, under the hood, my SDK is powering it. I'm getting paid, and you're also smiling. So that's one of the things that SDK gives us powers to. It helps others solve those problems too. So when you build a solution that already solves a specific problem, with SDK, it also helps others solve the same problem without having to go through writing all those code again. So it helps you to build once and reuse everywhere. So that's one of the key things that I like about SDK. Then the interesting part is, because a lot of things are abstracted now, the concept of abstraction is already in object-oriented programming language, meaning that you put something underlying that the user doesn't really have to care about or know how it works. What they just want is it working? Can it solve our problem? And they pay for it. So these are some of the powers that SDK is going to be giving to us. So as we dive along, we'll see how to. So just using an example that is very familiar to us. This is a sample Paystack platform, and this is a sample SDK, Paystack payment SDK. As you can see here, there are three key things that is very common to most of the SDK, whether it's a mobile SDK or a web SDK, is that there's always a widget that is going to be displaying on your platform or rendered somewhere on your platform. And the other thing that is common is the customization. They always have a way for you to be able to customize the experience of how you use that SDK, so that when you put it in your app, it just sits well and looks nice without any overhead. Then most times, because the idea of the SDK is you are bringing another app feature into your own platform. For user experience, you need to also have an exit flow, meaning a way that people can exit out of your SDK because their app has other functionality that they want their customer to benefit from. The last part, which is always interesting, mostly you build the SDK. Let's say, for example, I build an SDK that all schools are using, and maybe Ilorin is using the SDK everywhere. Most times, the schools will be like, we want our logo, we want everything everywhere. But yeah, I still want everybody to be aware that, yes, it's built by the awesome Amzajazi. So what I do is, with my business name, or I can just put secure by Paystack. But you know, the interesting part is, like I said earlier, sometimes enterprise customer will say, this part as well, they want it to be customized, that they still want this kind of look and feel. You know, it's sometimes some business are not too comfortable about others, you know, something showing that they are using a third-party stuff, even though it's already solving their problem. So, like I mentioned earlier, you get paid. With a single configuration, you can allow that, whereas it means they are paying extra, so which makes sense for you to earn along the way. So these are some of the most common SDKs that we are. I intentionally use payment SDK here today because we are very familiar with most of the payment SDKs that is out there, Flutterwave, Finca, and the likes. So today, the idea that we are trying to build is the SDK mindset, like I mentioned earlier. API First is about giving developers superpowers. I'm a developer, and trust me, we don't like to stress ourselves. One of the things we used to try to do when I'm working as an engineering lead is that we first of all look at what we are trying to solve. Does it worth it? Is it a complexity that customer will pay for? Okay, is there a third-party solution that can solve the same problem? Then we try to check our engineering depth to see that if we use this, what does it cost us? What are the complexities we are bringing? So most times, we end up using some SDKs. Let's imagine I want to quickly set up an e-commerce that accepts payment. I can't start thinking deep to build an entire payment infrastructure. I'll just quickly plug in a Flutterwave, for example, into my app, and I start accepting payment. So that's the use case there. So through SDKs that turn complexity to simplicity, you give developer superpowers to be able to enable them quickly prototype without having to build from scratch. Thank God I put some screenshots on the slide already because this is supposed to be like a code along code lab, but my system is not connecting with the projector. So we are going to look at a simple tax expert AI agent. And the reason why I do this is that I see that now everybody is talking about tax, like, oh, you start paying tax, personal income, earners, everybody is panicking now. I'll now start thinking about a lot of concepts that I can take as a sample demo for us to use. I said, okay, you know what, let me go with this because it's relatable and we can easily catch up from there. And one of the interesting things about building an AI agent is it is unlike the way you use Gemini or ChatGPT generally with, it all have mostly is generic response plus with your prompt engineering, you can get some interesting response at times, but a lot of time, they only give you response based on the web search or what they are trained on. So when you now build your own AI agent, you can easily give it superpower by putting some extra tools. For example, while trying this out, I try to check that can Gemini or ChatGPT just let me know if a particular business is registered and what is the status of this business. Trust me, obviously to answer you, and the response was, okay, I can't do this, but you can check through the CAC, you just try to guide you where you can check to do your public name search. But when you build something that is an intelligent AI agent that is solving a specific domain problem, in this case, a tax expert where you can easily interact with to know about your tax situation as a personal income earner or a business. Alongside, you also want to know if your business is active, is it registered, what's the validity of this business. So I built something very simple that is not complex for us to go along with. And after you do all of this heavy lifting, just think about, now we have about thousands business solutions out there, simple record keeping application. Everybody have been thinking, oh, how do I be in the game of tax coming 2026 to ensure that customers that are using my solution, everybody is thinking around record keeping, let me improve my system. Why? I thought of, what about you put an SDK that is like a tax-related SDK right into your business solution, and your customer that are already using your app can just, enjoy using these tools to know the status of their tax, and how they can easily file their tax return. So this is, so we have 2 parts of this demo. The first part is the playground. What the playground does is, it shows you, after you set up your AI agent, how you can test it out without building your own custom interface. Like you just want to quickly see how the AI agent is behaving. So this is like how the interface looks like. Some of the response of this AI is already grounded. So what we mean by grounding in AI is that you've already controlled and restructure how it's going to respond to user respectively and all of those things, which you can't really get when you are just using the open LLM directly, because it can give generic answer to different kind of customer. And I find it interesting that Fullstar is also one of our partner for this Devfest. So I just played to just check around that. Let me see, my business is Fullstar. So the agent tried to use the open model that I'm using, which is the Gemini Flash 1.0, because it doesn't get that answer generally from Gemini. It then plug into my tool, which is the CAC public search tool, because on that tool, I just do a simple API call to the CAC endpoint, passing the parameter from the user query. If they put a business name, then it uses it to then query the CAC to confirm if Fullstar even exists as a business, and it helps us to bring Fullstar. So that's like some of those things there. And one of the things I put here as well is I ground it to intelligently ask you questions that you need to provide answers to, so that it can help you to, it can easily advise you on what to do. Yeah, so this is just the simple interface as well, which means after we've test our AI agent, we now want to plug it into a UI where we can easily test and see how it's behaving. So this is a simple interface where I was able to test out that. But one of the things that is currently hard now, building agents, is there are some tools already like Jenkins that make it easy, but you can't easily use it for complex agents. You're only just using it for simple stuff. But when you want to build something custom like this AI agent that we are looking about, it's not always easy to build front end for them. Like currently, they support a lot of tools, but they are very complex. So one of the things I try to do is, these things are just normal protocols. There is a backend. Definitely, there should be an API. And definitely, with writing little code, I should be able to plug in into this API just the way the playground does it. Even though this code is abstracted, you can't really see it. So one of the things that I do was to just looking into the Google SDK, Google ADK, which is the agent development key. So it's using because I was doing the backend with Python, so it's using an API server, which is like a Flask API under the hood. Flask API is like one of those Python server-side framework that helps you to write REST API. So it exposed some API that ADK has under the hood. So I was just able to use that to interact. You will also see some of these things, because talk is cheap, so we are going to look at the code as well to do this. So this is one of the interesting parts. I also want to show that when you are building SDK, there are a lot of couple ways of doing your SDK. Sometimes the SDK you want to build might be that, okay, at a particular region in your app, just put this script tag or put this div. So you render my SDK like an inline, just like you see here. I thought of it again that sometimes a lot of customer CRM support system also have a way that they have SDKs where you can, like you click a button and it pop up like a chat experience. So I had to also do another strategy for like a pop-up experience, which is there, where the SDK will just pop up at the bottom. So some of these experience can be customized based on your use case if you are building SDK for your customer. So today we're going to go through the overall high-level architecture. One of the things I want to say is some of these might be looking like, am I ready for this? I'm a beginner. It's too complex? I'm just sharing you most of the details and building blocks to get you started. But trust me, when you see the code, you'll be surprised that, oh, it's something I write every day. So that's why. But again, because this basic is always very important in learning, is why I set up some of these so that it can be clear. When you are building backend with Google ADK, these are some of the major building blocks. Take note, all of this is abstracted for you. It's only these two parts, which is the agent definition and tool call, that you mostly do most times, like when you are doing it. But if you are going high level, like experts, you also get to a stage where you start thinking around doing your own session handling, which is when we start talking about memory, managing memory yourself. But in today's talk, We just make our agent to be very simple, no memory management. If you reload, all your chat history is gone. It's just a way to first even have this experience that, oh, this is how AI agent works. The ChatGPT I've been using, this is simply how it works. Let me start thinking about use cases in my community, especially here in Ilorin. Imagine you build a simple SDK that people can talk to in Yoruba to easily do their transaction, and you just gave it to market women to easily use for their fintech app. Some of those cool things. Now you are not thinking about, me, I don't have money. I can't even start a startup yet. Just think about using SDK. What SDK helps you to do is, if I can wrap it and talk to all those big guys already there, sometimes everybody used to be afraid that they will steal my idea. But with SDK, nobody is seeing your source code. Worst case, they can just see how it works and start thinking how to build it. But because you've abstracted the building block, maybe they would start their own from scratch. So that's the concept. And with that, you can, because one of the key things that help people to grow in business is partnership and collaboration. With that, you start seeing yourself talking to the likes of MoneyPoint. It's just embed your SDK in MoneyPoint app, and people start using Yoruba or their dialect to converse and have transactions. Whereas you don't even have customer, but they're already bringing millions of customers to you because you are leveraging on their platform. So on our front end side, we're consuming the API, handle the chat interaction, and dispatch. These two parts are what it is internal to you as you are building and you are creating the experience. But the last part, which is the web SDK, is what you want to give out to the customers to use. So first thing first, clients need to embed it into their third-party app, however you want it, as an inline widget or maybe a pop-up widget or iframe. Then most of the time, like I mentioned, customization is the key to how people might enjoy your SDK. You can create a customized startup behavior that they pass some options like maybe app name, the logo of their brand, maybe color, branding, and all of those things, so that once they pass it, you take care of it and render the widget nicely for them. Then the consuming browser experience. So there are two key things there that you need to be aware of. Now that you build a system that is abstracted from the customer, you also need a way to let the customer know what is happening under the hood. Not really your code now. I'm talking about the developers that is going to interact with this. So they need a way to listen to some event like on success, on failure, on some of those events that, when it happens, what should I do, respond with the customers? This helps them to build that experience easily integrated into their own third-party platform. And the last part is exposing features to end user. Obviously, now that you have your features that solve a lot of problems, with the web SDK, you now expose those features to other people to be able to consume your application. So the possibility is like big. Your simple web SDK and a lot of thousands of applications are connected to it. Clients and developers are happy and you are being paid. So yeah, today I just want, because we are still building the mindset, so it's why I had to come up with this. Just know that just the way we just quickly go to full start to quickly get that very ready hot cappuccino, it is ready, but behind the scene, you don't know what full start is doing. But at the end of the day, that food that you get is the SDK. You just consume it, you're happy, then you pay full start for it. So SDKs are just like instant noodles for developer. You have access to all those flavors without doing the cooking. Like I should do the hard work, then giving out the solution to make life easy for others that want to solve the same problem. But on the line, you are doing it to get paid anyway. So, we're starting the code lab now. If you can scan the QR code to the, I wish we can do a code along, but you can scan this QR code to the GitHub repo where the source code is. I'm going to be walking you through the major building block we've talked about and how they all connect together. But if we can also have a volunteer, I don't know, maybe that their system can connect, it will just make sense that we have like a two speaker on the stage and the person is working along and building this to the audience. It just makes sense again. But either way, I have some freebies for you because you need to follow through that code labs, and I'm looking at least 2 audience that can finish, and I see that your app is actually working, so that you get one of these. Just Google Gemini and try out some kits for you. So please, have you all scanned the QR? Can I take it up now? Okay, while we are doing that, do you have any question? Okay, one. How many of us have maybe before interact with any AI agent before? Do we all use ChatGPT? Do we all use Gemini? So those are some of the agents that is public agent model that we're already using. So yeah, most of us use it before. So start thinking out now. As I come to this workshop today, I'm going on with building the same experience but tailored to solving a specific problem. As I come here today, most of the resources I'm getting from the GitHub link will get me started to start solving problem right from Ilorin here. Okay, I think I can move. Yeah. So step one, we are building the core agents. Yeah, so the core agent just coupled with Gemini and Google ADK basically. We are using the Gemini model. It's very intelligent and it has about 1 billion parameters and is well trained for this demo. And the Google ADK, because we need a software development kit like Google ADK as well, which has also helped us to package a lot of building blocks for building agents. We are going to be using that to build our backend. So the backend is in Python. It's just a simple backend that shows you how agents work. So this is the basic interaction for the agent. So the name of our agent is Ninja Tax Agent, and this is the backend component. Again, this is just underlying. Forget about all these technical jargons, right? So this is just showing you that when the user query like, hello, my name is Ahmed, what happened? So the agent is going to invoke the agent. So under the hood, the ADK use what we call the runner. But first thing first, because for every interaction, there's always a section. Just like the way we build app today, create a user section so that you identify everything that is happening within that particular section. So the runner is what take care of the section, basically. So you automatically create a user section and invoke your AI agent, which in this case, the AI agent we built, which is our Ninja Tax agent. Then under the hood, is going to call the LLM, large language model. In this case, we are using Gemini. So once it does that, so let's say I said, hello, my name is Ahmed. I own a small business called Fusta. Then I would like to know if you can advise me on the tax situation for my business. So when you take that in, one of the things that the LLM tries to do first is it's going to check that, okay, do I have all this, do I have answers to this user with what I've been trained with? Meaning that every information that I've been trained with, the billion parameter, using the Google web search, can I provide an intelligent answer? Remember, one of the key things that we need to know again, which is why prompt engineering is very, very important. It's very basic to everybody at this age now. When building AI agent, prompting is one of our superpowers. If you want your AI agent to be very smart and intelligent, you put a prompt to it. Because prompt is part of, you see the code, prompt is part of what we use to be able to structure the agent, to ground it, to know how to respond to the user, and intelligently smart enough to handle anything Ninja Tax related. So once you do that, it's going to do a function called that, oh, I don't have this information at my disposal. I have some, but I can't intelligently answer this customer. It should not check, do I have any function calls within me? So example, think about a kitchen that you want to cook, and the next thing that the customer is ordering is salad. You now try and check, oh, the general pantry, do we have all those garbage and stuff? Oh, we don't have. let us check if you have it in the storage room. So storage room is more like, oh, what tools do I have access to? Oh, I have access to the CAC tool. Okay, I think I can use this to check if this customer business name actually exists and what's the status of this business name like. Oh, I want to know if it is a registered business name, if it is what's it called, sole proprietor, all those kind of things, so as I can advise better. It will do the function call and execute it, get a response, and then return the output back to the user. In simple terms, all of this is just like 5 lines of code. That's why I said building your first agent is very easy. Just that this makes you understand what is really happening under the hood. So just 5 steps to get started. You install the Google ADK. Most of this is already prepared for you in the repository. It's just to kind of follow and install the setup command to be able to get started. Then you create your agent. So your agent, I'm going to show you an example. Then you have tools. Sometimes if you are creating an agent that is very generic, that you don't really need any custom behavior, you might not necessarily add a tool to it. But if you want to, obviously you want to build SDK for third party, definitely you want to have a lot of custom behavior. So you have to add some tools to be able to do some smarter decisioning. Then you run your ADK web, which is that interactive playground that I talk about. To first of all, kind of test your agent and see how it's behaving before you start integrating it into your front-end application. So this is a sample. Can you try to, like, this screen, can you zoom it out or something so that it can easily show? Well, I think the screen is very wide. So this is just a very simple code. Okay, no, don't worry, leave it. This is just a very simple code that shows you the building block. Like, it's just that the indentation has already scattered, but that's not a problem. Just imagine with these maybe 7 or 10 lines of code, you already built something very smart that people can interact with to know about Nigerian tax system, and it can intelligently advise. So one of the building blocks is adding your model. Something about Google ADK, that's the Agent Developer Kit, is that it is agnostic. It supports not only Google model, it also supports Llama and other OpenAI model as well. So it is agnostic. But here we are using the Google Gemini 2.0 Flash because it's generic and it can also handle multimodal easily. Then the other building block is the prompting and description. It's very important. Description to tell us what this agent is about. Then prompting. Prompting is the superpower of building agent. If you check the GitHub repo, you will see the root agent instruction, more or less like the prompt that is passed into this agent and how it's going to build. The agent that we import from Google ADK is the wrapper of the major intelligent brain that is already built by Google that is going to take in all of those tools and customization that we've passed to it and intelligently answer our customer. Then we are using 2 tools here, the Google search grounding. So when you are building with ADK as well, there are built-in tools and there are custom tools. So the Google search is built-in tools that come from Google themselves, more like, okay, because if we chat with our agent directly without using Google search tool, it will never ever give you any related information from Google search. It will just be intelligent enough to answer normal natural language question and all. But because we also want our agent to access, Google, to be able to know, oh, Nigeria has released another tax pronouncement that something has changed, all of those things. So we have the Google search there. Okay, still go out there to check latest information. Then we have another tool, which this one now is internal to us, CAC public search. Because the agent is not intelligent to know about the status of a particular business, we also want to create a simple tool that does CAC check for us about that business. Before we proceed, I really want us to run through the step 1 because so as to ensure that we are on the same page, because it's a code along lab. Is anybody following along already from the code base? So if you have cloned the code base, please let me see your hand. if you have cloned the GitHub repo. So please, what you need to do is you need to check out. So we are going to start the step now so that everybody follow along. You run your GitHub command to check out to step -1. Git checkout step -1. That is the step for everything that has to do with the backend, so that you can understand what we are doing. Git checkout step -1. Who is there now? Who is on our step 1 branch? Sorry, who is new to Git here, please? Who is new to Git? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, we have about 7, 8 audience new to Git. So just a simple crash course. Git is our version control system that developer use to track their changes. Not just developer, you can also tap into it even though if you don't write code. So think of the way you have normal Excel sheets that you make changes to every day and install your system. You can still use Git as well to track changes and roll back changes. Instead of Ctrl+Z, you've made a lot of changes and you want to remember that, oh, I need to change some things that I've done 3 days ago. With the power of Git, and you create several branches as you are doing your changes, you can easily roll back to a previous change that you've made before. So Git is just a version control tools that developer use to do this, and it's one of those tools we are using on this workshop today. Why GitHub is just one of the provider, a platform where you can easily use online to still do the same thing Git does locally on your system to track your project's version changes history. So that's that. So, but pardon us, even though you are new to Git, you can use today to first of all install Git for the first time on your system, have a GitHub account, then from there you go on. So are we in step 1 now? Step 1 branch, please. I just want to know if you are following along so that we can quickly wrap up the workshop. Okay, 1. Are we in step 1, 2? Okay, great. So if you are in step 1, one of the instructions in step 1, because by step 1 now, everybody will be able to spin up their AI agent, and I'll go around to just see who was able to do that first. Maybe I have my first gift. So there is an app directory, which is where the code base of our backend is, which is the agent, like just this simple code that we are displaying here. So for you to run your agent, you need to first, if you have Python already installed, if you don't have, you need to first install Python. And the second thing is, there is a package manager we are using, which is UV. UV, you can easily also get UV installed on your system. But automatically, if you are on Mac, there is a command you can run already that will give you UV, automatically install, or you check the browser to install it. Once you do that, you can then run the installation. The README is also there for you to see this step 1 by 1. Once you run the UV install, then you can run the UV dev so that it spin up these sample projects. Okay, yeah. So that's for step 1. Then if you are able to spin up that agent, so what about our T's? 24. Do you have some T's in the house that can just check? Because some people might be stuck, so you can easily help them check and let them get this straight up. So the step 2 is building the front end for our application. This is the front end that is going to consume the AI agent. You're not writing any code. It's already developed for you to just follow along. And you are going to see all of the front-end code alongside with the back-end code that we've talked about earlier by checking out to step 2. That's if you are on Git, step -2, it takes you to the branch where the additional code for front-end is being added. So you can see the simple React application that handles the front-end of our tax AI agents. Okay, so one of the most important thing about our front end is after you write all your React magic, use states, do all of those things, listen to my user, send the API to the backend. that is just within your app. The third-party app that is going to be integrating needs to be aware of whatever is happening, listen to an event and all of those things. So this is just a simple snippet. There's a lot of way of doing this, but this is just a simple way where you can get started. Like earlier, I showed you that we have two modes for our simple SDK that we are building. It can either show inline or it can show as a pop-up. So we define the mode to be able to know, okay, which mode the user is using when they call our SDK. It is that your front-end app that is going to abstract all of this logic out of the end user. Then we also do instance ID. Instance ID is just like if somebody is running, developers might be funny. They can decide to embed that same widget 10 times on a page. They just want to try and see what is going on. So instance ID helps us to easily scope that all of them are unique. They are unique instantiations so that you can easily handle them correctly. Then the last part is you need to have a web event, because this is web. For mobile, to you use event as well or API to do this. You need to have a web event such that the parent third-party app, maybe let's say Ilorin, for instance, that is using your tax agent stuff now, can easily listen to all of these events. Obviously, it should be documented in your documentation, and then they can interact with it. Then the last part is the setup. You ensure that you set up all of these parameters as your widget is instantiating so that you can handle it correctly. And then the last part is the close, where they can easily close this agent. So taking us to the fun part, which is our SDK wrapper. This is the most interesting part for me because now I'm adding superpower to be able to allow people to use the AI agent I've built that is expert enough to answer anything related to tax. And not just that, also give you in-depth into CAC status about your business. So here, just like I mentioned, is also based on the platform you are building for. Most of those like Flutter, they have SDKs for PHP, for React. If you want your SDK to also be platform agnostic, you can build extra programming language focused SDK so that every developer can also interact. Like this one, for example, is a web SDK, which obviously is going to be built with web technology. So this is the SDK wrapper. What this does is, instead of I now have to go to tell clients, write all of this long code, the code are long, a little long, to be able to use my customized feature on my app, you also do it for them. That's where the SDK wrapper comes in. You help them package how to access your application. So more like abstracting. You don't want them to call your API direct. They don't even know the endpoint you are using for a lot of things. So this guy here is what is intelligent enough that helps you to do that, the abstraction instance. So now, because we have two strategies, which is we want them to either render it inline or as a pop-up. So this helps you to expose those two methods so that when your package is built and you host it on NPM registry, people can do NPM install or on a CDN and put the scripts on their web page. They can easily have access. Automatically, they have access to this on their window object, and they can start calling your method. So this is an example of someone using normal index or HTML to just kind of put this in their web page, and the tax AI agent is directly in their app, and they can start using it. Another use case for this same using script tag, but you want to use it as a pop-up, just like I showed you that pop-up at the bottom right. This is a use case of doing that as well. If you are also maybe NPM package like a React, Angular, one of the interesting things is regardless of if it is React or Angular or Vets, this is just NPM package and it's JavaScript. So it's JavaScript, it can easily be embedded there as well. And they just have to call your method to be able to instantiate that app into their own with a button click. So step 4, as I'll be wrapping up my talk for this morning, but I'm still around in case, because one of our goals for this workshop and tomorrow workshop is for every code lab, we have our audience to be able to complete at least one, and we have some freebies for you guys. So step 4 is like, okay, I'm done with writing my code, my back end. I'm also done with the front end interaction. I've built a wrapper around it so that everybody can access. What's next? So you want people to be able to access it, so you share your AI agent as reusable SDK. I think as a reusable SDK, some of the steps in step 4 is, some of the step is you first of all package your app. There are some commands already on the GitHub repository that shows you how to package the SDK wrapper so that you can easily publish it to maybe NPM registry for people to access and host your application. Then the other step is, after you've done this as well, then the API documentation. You want to write a simple documentation for developers. We love documentation. Okay, this is what to do if you want to use my SDK. If your SDK require getting API key, this is the step to do it. This is how you code my endpoint or how you instantiate my API. Yeah, I would say a yes to that, as libraries are subsets of SDK. Just like the way we have APIs. The idea around SDK is software developers kits. Library is part of it, obviously, because we use libraries plugged in our day-to-day life of working as a software engineer. So yeah, so you can think of, oh, I solve a very complex engineering problem. I build a library called Ahmed Facial. Maybe it's just to recognize that this picture is an AI generated or not. Yes, something like that. It might not necessarily be an SDK that they plug in directly, but indirectly because it's going to be part of their code base, obviously. So yeah, that's one thought to having an SDK mindset. Any other question? Hello. The last slide. So who is in step 3? Step 1. Are we having any challenge? Like, what's the challenge? You are lost. No, you are here. You are here. You are here. Don't be lost. Don't be lost. Okay, step 1. That's where you are lost. Where you are. What's the challenge? Okay. Okay, we have some TAs to check. While we are waiting for the next speaker, so we can check.
We found the repo, but like, we don't know which one to.
Like, have you cloned it?
Okay, cloned the repo,
but
You've
scripts. I was trying to write the demo UI for the scripts, but I mean,
Okay, you've cloned the repo.
yes.
So what are you trying to do now?
Like this, I was trying to follow along with the script that was being displayed, or is there the source code for the script on the board?
Okay, first thing first, there is a prerequisite, like I mentioned earlier, which is you need to get your Google API key, because you are going to set up an environment variable to interact with the agents. That's even one of it first. Before you go to this, so you go to Google AI Studio to do that. But for the code base, there is a make file. I wish I can present my screen. Or if we have, if we have a window, that system, if we can use it to go to the GitHub, maybe I can just use it to quickly talk around the code base, so it's much more faster that way, since I can't present my screen. So if you go there, so if you go to the GitHub, there are just 3 folders. There's the app folder, there's the front end, and the widgets. When we are building this, each is done separately within the same code base. So that's why different branch, step 1, step 2, step 3. So to easily follow along is why you have to start like each branch. So that way you can understand the code. However, the full source code is on the main branch, which if you don't want to go through the stress. So if you don't have that as well, you can just focus on step 3, the main, which is, but to run step 1, you check CD into the app directory, where you only focus on the backend so that you can run your AI agents. Then you run the Python command to start up your application, which is the UV, if you have the UV package. If you don't have it, because a lot of Python users might be very familiar with using They might be very familiar with using the, sorry, can I use your system to just quickly walk through? They might be very familiar with using the, what's it called? Using the pip install, which is also a Python package manager. You can use that as well. It doesn't limit you, just that UV is used for this project, which you can easily download and install. There is a very strict structure, folder structure. You know, developer, we don't really like somebody to tell us that you must do it this way. We should be able to change our experience. But this one is not really, it's just one thing. After everything, you can do every other thing yourself. They like it that for your backend, in this case, because app is our backend, which is the root folder of our backend, all your AI agent must be a folder inside it. Not like I'll just start writing my agent code outside. Let's say I want to create 5 agents for under this app. I'll create them one by one as a folder here. So that's the first thing to note. So in this case, like Ninja Tax is our agent, for instance. Then we have the dependency that just show what you want to install, which is the Google ADK. But once you just have UV installed, just the way you do npm install, you can easily use UV to just install those Python packages. The interesting thing about UV is you don't have to be doing all these environment, like, virtual environment and all those things. Once you just run, it will run and automatically, for Python developers, you always create like virtual environment. It will just help you to automatically do that. Then our agent itself too, so also Google recommend that for your agent, there must be a file called agent.py at the root folder of that agent. Now we've opened the agent, which is Ninja Tags. There must be a file called agent.py. You can place every other thing anywhere you like. So that's why we do this way. Agent.py and then the init.py. The init.py is just like export everything that you have in your code. And since agent.py is like the root of our code where we import everything. So in that init, we just export. But let me just quickly show you the agent itself. Okay, great. Like I said, this is what we write to make all those intelligence happen. Just import your tools, which I'm going to show you those two samples and you see it. Then, but the major power, like I mentioned, is that instruction, which is like your prompt that you. So let's just even check our prompt and see what it looks like. It's a normal thing that you just take to ChatGPT and type in. But in this case, it has power to call some tools. So this is example of our prompts that we use here. You can see the instruction. You are an expert Nigerian tax officer. So you just write all of this. Then you also tell it that there are some tools that it has access to. So you tell it to use these tools to do X, Y, Z. Use these other tools to do X, Y, Z. Note, this is just the way I like to structure prompts. When you do prompt engineering, you have different experts way of structuring prompts. One key thing I like to do is, first of all, high level. What are you doing what's my prompt about? Even if I'm using ChatGPT, what's the prompt about? What's the end goal that I want to achieve? What are the prerequisites? But in this case, because I'm building an agent, prerequisite might not really work with ChatGPT or Gemini, but in terms of if they want to check generic stuff anyway, prerequisite is a way to tell them that while you are trying to help me with this research or get this information, I want you to do X, Y, Z. So that you do that first before you do the actual task, so that I can get a very well detailed information then. I also control how I want to get the response. Business wants to know the key takeaway for their business type, breakdown of how tax apply to them, the consideration for their business and how they can calculate. This prompt is the power of the application, honestly. So let's imagine you clone the code today and you can easily just delete the prompt, try with other new prompts and see the behavior and how it's smart enough to answer questions. So that's one of the key building blocks about our agents. You always have a prompt that you pass to it, then the tools. So in this case, we have just 2 tools that our agent is using, which is the CAC tool and then the Google search tool. So one of the documentation for the ADK as well is like when you are building a custom tool, there is something that we used to call string literal, not like documentation. So that because LLM is going to run your function, it wants to understand what this function is all about. So you have to, it's just like commenting and putting instructions. So I wanted to search a particular business name that is being passed down. Note the interesting thing is that you don't have an input to say, what is your business name, that kind of thing. But because you are working with LLM, which has the ability for natural language processing, it knows the context that this is a business name that you just supply. It intelligently passes it to which tool is intelligent enough to do this. This is where your string literal, which is like a comment, comes in. Oh, there's a tool that does business research, and so it does do that. And calling the endpoint, it helps us to easily, the rest is a story, basically. So then there's other one too, which is a built-in tool, which is from Google. I can easily use this built-in tool and pass it directly to our agent in the field. But one of the drawbacks is that when you are using Google Search as a built-in tool, it has a specific drawbacks. Yeah, it has a specific drawback, which is you can't import it with another tool. So the way to go about it is wrap it as an agent. So this is a use case. So the Google Search running tool. In this case, what it means is that you can build another agent and pass it as a tool to your agent. So this is a simple Google Search agent. We use it as a tool, and this is our product. So my time is up. I'm still around. If you are interested in learning more or making sure that you can run your demo project, then you can meet me. But before I go, I just have one question, basically, because I don't want to take these things home, so that I can give it to at least one audience today. So please, who among you was able to go to at least clone the code? Okay. Okay, so I want to ask one question. Then, if anybody that can just answer that question, we go on with the gift. So, what is the very important thing that you need to do if you are building your SDK? Like, very important thing, so that the third-party application can be aware of any actions that is happening in your app. Anybody that can take on this can take my gifts. Like, something you need to just do. It's not technical, it's just explaining it that I need to do this so that third-party app can be able to interact and use my app. Okay? Documentation. That's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, documentation is important, but it is part of what you've built so that the other third-party application can know when error happen, when something happen. There is one important, yeah. Okay, are you taking this on?
I think I was about to say the same thing. I wanted to talk about
The README file. The README file is actually our code-based documentation. Sorry, you want to take on? The prompt function call, not really. Okay, you want to say something? Okay, let me recap the question. The question is, I've built my application features. I now want to get to a stage that I want third parties to start using it. I start building SDK wrapper so that I wrap it, abstract my function so that I will not give it to third party. But now, in that my application that I built, even if they plug my stuff in now, how did they start knowing that error happen, sources happen, message happen? So there's something like an event somewhere that you need to do. I don't just want to, but there is a name for it because this is a web SDK. There's something event that you need to do on your application so that the other app too can listen to that event.
Analyzing your error SDK and then finding a nice error.
Okay, funny enough, the answer is in our front. The answer is in our front. Widget. Sorry. Okay, the SDK wrapper. This, like, there is a name now. Something event must be published from your app so that the other third party can listen to this event when anything happens. The name of that event, and the answer is in our front like this.
Consumer browser, consumer browser.
It starts from B. It starts from B. The answer is in our front. What do we open? What do we open on the screen? A browser event. Well, I feel like, I don't know. Okay, what's the full meaning of SDK? Who is taking it? Oh yeah, the female. Okay, please help me give her this. Because so there is a browser event that you have to dispatch so that the other third party app can listen to. I have other gifts, but it's only for any smart person that can spin up the app, even if it is the playground. I appreciate